So I'm starting with some scraps of aluminum can, and they've been flattened and I've used them for other projects. So I always save my scraps because I think they have some pretty colors in them and you can make little tiles. I've done a lot of different videos with different scraps of material. So for this project, I'm going to be using the green portion of my can sheet here. And I have a really heavy duty circle punch from Pick Punch. I'm not sure if you can find these anymore. So I did test out whether or not just a regular paper punch. I don't have a circle punch, but this is just a regular paper punch. And I was able to use it on the aluminum. So I think that if you have just a regular circle punch that is for paper, you probably can use it on the aluminum. Once you get to more intricate shapes, like if you have a flower shape or something with a lot of detail in it, I don't think I would use that on the aluminum just because there's too many places for it to get caught. But if you're using just a plain circle, I think you should be able to use a regular paper punch and not jam it up. But this one, if you're able to find this Pick Punch, is very easy to use. And you can just punch out your circles. These are 1-inch circles. And I've made a couple of different styles of earrings here. I've got sort of little double circles. I've made some that are triples, and then I've made this little 4-circle, I don't know, diamond shape, I guess. I'm making a double earring here, so I'm going to need a total of 8 circles. You can see how easy it is to use this punch though. And it was a little harder to push on that other paper punch, but like I said, I'm pretty sure you could use that, especially if you're just using it to punch a couple of small circles to make a pair of earrings. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to glue the pieces together and have the green side out. So I'm going to flip them over and put a little bit of E6000 glue on my circles. You don't want to get too much glue on here. If you do, it'll squeeze out and kind of make a mess. So I'm just putting glue on one side of my circles here. Now sometimes I've had pieces where I wanted to have a top and bottom, like this little, hopefully you can see it, there's a little dog face there. So this definitely has a top and a bottom to it. And so I wanted the other side to match up. With this green pattern, I don't really need to worry about a top and a bottom. So I'm just going to sandwich these together and kind of try to spread the glue around so that the edges will seal. They don't have to be perfect, but you don't want them to be gaping open. And then I have some clothespins here that I'm just going to use to kind of clamp them together to hold them while the glue sets up. Sometimes they will slide a little bit because of the clothespin having a little bit of a, it tends to kind of pull because of the spring that's in there. So you can offset that by using 2 clothespins. And then you might just want to check them periodically and make sure that they're still stuck together and haven't kind of slid off the center. And this glue takes 24 hours to completely cure, but it sets up pretty quickly, so you should be able to work with these pieces in a 20 minutes or half hour or so. So I'm going to let the glue set up on those for a minute, and I have some over here that I've let the glue dry on. And these pieces were, I used the back side of the aluminum and I did a little hammered texture on them. And so you can use the colored side or you can use the silver side, whichever you want to do. And for this step, you do definitely want a clothespin. And the reason is that you have the little gap here. So you can put your, I'm going to paint around the edge, and you're able to just paint the whole circumference and not have to let it dry in between. So I'm going to clip my disc in my clothespin here, and then I'm using some silver metallic dimensional paint from Tulip, and if you're looking for it, it's actually in the fabric area of your craft stores. I always have trouble finding it because it's not with the regular craft paint. It's actually fabric paint. So I'm going to just kind of draw a careful edge around the top portion of my disc here. It's not going to be perfect. It kind of gives a faux soldered look to it, I think. So I'm going to go on both sides. And then if you need to, if you've got kind of a tiny gap between your metal, you can cover that with the paint as well, just going across the top carefully. You don't want to get too much paint on there, but you do want to get kind of an even coverage on both sides, and then make sure you don't have any gaps between your pieces of metal. And then I'm just going to carefully take this where I haven't painted it, and I'm going to set the painted part inside that little gap in my clothespin. And then I can paint the rest of the edges here. And this way you have a nice finished edge to your metal. People ask me how sharp it is, and you can definitely get a paper cut if you handle the material incorrectly. But with the paint on here, you really don't have any raw metal edges exposed, so it shouldn't be a problem. So the other thing that's great about this clothespin is that now I can just lay this down and the paint isn't touching anything, and I'm just going to allow the paint to dry. So you can see all my pieces up here. I've already glued these together and painted them, and I'm ready to do some assembly. So for that step, I just have a little hard surface. I'm just using a little ceramic tile, and I have a little bit of a piece of cork here. If you don't have a piece of cork, you can use cardboard, and you certainly don't need a ceramic tile either. You just need something that's not going to give. I've also got a little piercing tool. This one's from the Dollar Tree, so they're definitely affordable. And I'm just going to be putting together a double circle earring. So you could even do single ones if you wanted to. And all you need to do is, I'm going to punch a series of holes. So I need, in the top piece, I need a hole for the earring hook and a hole to hook to the bottom piece. And in the bottom piece, I only need the one hole. So you can try to measure them. If you've watched my videos, I'm kind of all about eyeballing things. So I'm just gonna carefully punch my holes. You do want to make sure that your holes are perpendicular, parallel. What am I trying to say? You want to make sure that if you have a top and a bottom hole, that they're centered so that your jewelry will hang straight. But again, my best efforts usually come from just kind of guessing and eyeballing where that hole should be. So I've got a top hole here, a bottom hole here, and a top hole here. And then I'll just repeat that on these other two discs. I haven't quite got all the way through yet, so I'm gonna give it a little more oompa. Now, when you have punched your holes, on the side that you punched from, you're going to have a very smooth surface. But on the back side, you've just, made a sort of rough and raw edge where you've punched the hole. And you're not going to get it to be perfect, but I try to press down some of those pointed edges. You don't want to close up the hole, but you do kind of want to push them down. Now, it's still going to be rougher on this one side than it is from the side that you punched through, but you can make it a lot better just by taking, you could use a pen cap, you could use an embossing tool. I am just using the plastic end of my piercing tool to kind of push those raw edges back down a little bit. And then when you put the jump ring through, that will, protect any, you're not going to really be touching that area, so it's not like it's a dangerous spot, but it does help if you don't have such jagged edges. So again, if you did have a top and a bottom, you'd want to make sure that you are putting your holes in the appropriate places, but in this particular pattern, I'm not worried about where the design how the design hangs from the jump ring. So once you have your holes made, you're ready to do the assembly. So this is really a easy and fast project. I mean, you have to wait for a little bit of drying time on some things, but these go together pretty quickly. So I'm going to be using some 9mm jump rings to attach the rings together, and then I'm going to use a 7mm jump ring to attach the earring hook to the earrings. And I just have a couple of pairs of needle nose pliers, and I'm going to open up my 9mm jump ring just by twisting that slit open. And then I'll take my first disc, put it onto the jump ring, and I can hook the other piece through. And then I'll just twist them back in the opposite direction, the jump ring back in the opposite direction to close it. And then I'm going to take one of my earring hooks, and my 7mm jump ring. I'll twist it open the same way I did on the 9mm jump ring. And I'll loop my discs through and attach my earring hook. I have to actually adjust these earring hooks because you can see that the ring on the jump ring, or on the earring hook, is laying flat, so this whole piece is flat. And in order for my earring to hang correctly, I actually need to have the hoop or the ring at the bottom facing different, sort of opposite the way that the earring is laying. So I'm just grabbing it with my needle nose pliers and twisting that ring. So hopefully you can see this okay. But now my ring is laying up and down and not flat across like it did originally. And I could have added an extra jump ring if I wanted to, but I just prefer to twist the ring on my earring hook. So you can see that now when I put this on, hopefully you can see that, the earrings will hang sort of facing out instead of facing to the side. But that's just a personal preference, so you can attach your earring hooks any way you want to as far as how your earring hangs. And I've got my first earring finished. So I'll just repeat that process on this other 2 discs, and I'll have a completed set of earrings. Now, like I said, I just kind of got carried away. I've made some that are 3 discs long, which is sort of fun. And I also made this, like I said, more diamond shape. So I'm just going to carry on assembling these, but I think you can see how fast they go together, and they're just kind of bright and fun and colorful. Be sure to check the description box for all the additional resources. There's also a place to sign up to receive the Upcycle Design Lab newsletter if you never want to miss one of my projects. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.